This episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast was brought to you by Panamorphy. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today, my guest is Kelly Noone from SkinQueen. After being fired from a job as a receptionist and industry hopping to find her passion, Kelly was lost and struggling to decide what she wanted to do for the rest of her life. A friend of hers recommended she check out laser hair removal as a treatment for herself, and after a short consult with that therapist, Kelly left with the name of a college on a pink sticky note that she soon went on to study at. Post-study, Kelly found herself struggling to enjoy the industry, primarily due to crappy bosses, poor workplace culture, and high daily targets that were almost impossible to meet. It wasn't until she landed her first job as an industry educator that things started to change and Kelly started to feel like she had found her place and people within the industry. The last 4 years in Kelly's career has seen her develop her knowledge of cosmeceuticals, ingredient technology, skin histology, advanced treatment and therapies, as well as learning how to be a facilitator of education to adult learners to ensure their knowledge retention is the highest it can be. Combine all of this with dancing on reels, incredible social media engagement, and kick-ass social skills and strategy, Kelly is now teaching the industry, A, how to be educated, and B, how to share that education across their social media stories. Here's Kelly and I for Beauty Industry. Kelly, aka SkinQueen, welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast.
Yay, I'm so excited. Long time coming, finally on here.
I know. I've got this thing with some people how we book 18,000 sessions to actually get to the final recording, and you are one of them, and it's been 3 years in the making. So welcome, friend.
Yay, so excited.
So you would be familiar with this question that we start with. We always want to find out from our guests how they entered into the industry. So where did it all begin for you?
I love this question because I love listening to where everybody started. And just to sidestep for a little bit, yesterday I was scrolling and aimlessly scrolling, and I got into that comparison mode, and I was like, do you know what, where did this person actually start off? And I scrolled all the way back. So I love that you always start with this question. I guess for me, it was not really knowing what I wanted to do after school, as so many people come onto your podcast and actually say. And I was tossing up between going and becoming a doctor, or going and doing allied health, or becoming a dermatologist, something around that field. Mum is a hairdresser, and I pretty much grew up in hair salons, but hair wasn't really for me. And I knew beauty wasn't for me either, because the idea of waxing and painting nails, which I saw mum do as well, I was like, I just don't know if that's what I'm going to be passionate about. And I still remember to this day, and I'm still friends with this person. A friend was going and getting laser hair removal. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Where are you getting that done? And she told me the name. I booked in for a consult, and I was speaking to the therapist saying, how does somebody get a job like this? And I still remember she wrote down the name of the college on this tiny little bit of paper, and I folded up and I put it in the zip part in my wallet. I was like, okay, cool, I'll look into that. And then, one thing led to another. I applied, I got into my dermal therapies and fell in love instantly, which was such a relief, because from there I had studied so many different things. I did hospitality, I did allied health, I did medical receptionist. I think I did a bit of tourism just for something to do. And I was pretty sure that I was just going to be this traveling hippie all over Europe. If it wasn't for dad being just get a degree and then your world's your oyster, then you can go be a traveling hippie, then I probably wouldn't have kept pursuing it. But so glad I did, because I immediately knew like that's where I found my passion. I was like, yes, this is my people. I'm loving this. And, paths were flying colors because here I am.
Ah, that's so cool. Hey, I actually don't think we've had somebody on this podcast who hasn't gone beauty dermal, and you just went straight dermal. I don't think we've had anyone who's just gone straight dermal.
Yeah, I was going to point that out, but I was like, does that make me look not professional? But
No.
I had to go through a bit of a process to still get into that. I remember the teacher being like, I don't know what they call her, she's like the head of the university. She was just like, look, if you haven't done beauty, I think you're going to really struggle. I recommend going back and doing beauty. And I was like, these are the reasons why I don't want to. This is why I really want to get into dermal. And she made me do like a written exam on like current trends within the industry. I wasn't even in the industry then. So I had to find all this out and had to have an interview. And I think there was only me and one other person who came from a nutrition background who got in without doing beauty. Which is interesting though, because I don't want to like say anything bad and put bad juju, but a lot of these beauty classes or dermal or anything, they always start off so big in the beginning and then people drop off along the way because they're like, actually, this isn't for me. And it was interesting because a lot of beauty students actually did that. And I think by the time we got to graduation, there was only 8 people. And it was myself and one of my nutritionist friend who actually made it into those 8 people. So I was like, well then.
Oh, there you go. That's really cool. And so you went, as you said, hospitality, you did, a bit of tourism, a bit of everything. What was your jam once you got into dermal that you were like, yeah, cool, this is for me?
I think it was the skin science. The biology, the chemistry, the technology, working with lasers, skin needling, wound healing. I was just like, oh, this is awesome. This is what I want to do.
That's really cool. And something that I hear a lot from a lot of studying people is that like the beauty world looks very shiny and glamorous, and then they get out into the industry and they're like, oh, is this it? When you got out into industry, did you like still feel that same love for it, or did you think that it wasn't what you thought it was in studying, or from the outside of the industry looking in, were you like, okay, this is exactly what I thought, it's treating people with laser?
I can definitely see why people get like that. And I think when you're inside a university, it is all a little bit smoke and mirrors, a little bit rose colored glasses. And then when you do go out and you have to deal with real life clients, it can be a little bit of a shock to the system. But I think because I went into working at a laser clinic, doing like skin needling, doing laser, doing IPL rejuvenation, like I was working with the technology, started off pretty much day one with cosmeceutical training. I was like, no, I definitely love this. But, at first, when I first entered the industry and when I got my first job, I wasn't in it for very long and I was disheartened quite quickly. Like I think my first job only lasted 3 months and I was like, oh, is this actually what I want to do forever? Like, have I gotten into the right profession? And, along the way and sticking true to what I actually wanted to do, that's where I've found my love with everything else that I'm doing now. So, the long-winded answer to this is when I first entered, no, but now that I've stuck it through, like it's definitely everything I imagined. So yeah, super appreciative of all my decisions that I've made.
Yeah, so good. And hey, we will get to SkinQueen, but you've had a step there from therapist to SkinQueen, which was educator. Tell me about that. What made you go into education, and how did you find, traveling around and teaching everyone how to do all the things?
Yeah, including myself. I think that was also like a little bit of a bit of a surprise and delight job, which was awesome. As I just said, like I didn't last very long on my first job due to high pressure selling, which I passionately talk about, and just bad team culture, poorly run businesses. And from there, I was like, okay, what would I ideally like to do? By that point, I'd already attended 2 different product trainings. And I still remember the first product training, and the educator, she like flew from Sydney. She was dressed immaculately. She had like a Louis Vuitton handbag. And she was like, after the training, I can't stay and chat because I'm flying back to Sydney and then I'm off to Melbourne tomorrow. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do you get this job? And so when I left my first job, I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Write down my top 5 jobs, top 5 places I want to work at. And I literally just applied left, right, and center. They weren't all educator jobs. I actually applied as a counter manager for one of the positions. And I was like, no, I really want to work with this skincare brand. That would be amazing. I sent my resume in on Facebook, on Instagram. I sent it to like the customer support email that was on the back of one of their products I was using. Like, I was like, this is the one that I want. And enthusiasm obviously paid off, because I still remember somebody from reception calling me pretty much the next day saying, like, we've received your resume 5 different ways. And I was like, okay, thank God people are checking their, message requests. And she was like, would you be keen for an interview? And I was like, yep, 100%, I'm down for it. But ended up having an interview with their CEO. And I still remember to this day, like, I have no idea what I was getting myself back into back then. The interview was like at the Hilton in Brisbane, and she was sitting there with her 2 laptops and her mobile phones and coffees, and looking like, I always say, Meryl Streep from The Devil Wears Prada, just looking glamorous and amazing once again. And here I am going for a little counter manager position at David Jones. And she was like, I actually think you'd be quite bored in that job. And I was like, oh no, like, this is what I wanted to do. She's like, we might have something better for you, but I'll give you a call in the next few days. And then they'd actually created the position for me. So I still remember when I had my second interview, my manager at the time, she was like, I don't really know what I'm interviewing you for. I think they're creating something. And I was like, okay, cool. And a week later got the phone call and said, we'd actually like to make you our state-based educator. And I was like, I have no idea what this is, but I'm saying yes, and learned it along the way and had so much training and development along the way. So a little bit of a fluke, as I said, but definitely something else that I'm so appreciative for in my industry. And so many people over the past few years have said to me, like, how did you get into it? And I'm like, honestly, I'm not the right person to ask. It's a bit of a fluke. So, I mean, you could try the option that I did. It would never hurt.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that persistence pays off so much. I've said this on the podcast before, but that's how Marianne, who's our beauty intern, got her job as beauty intern, because she like emailed me week after week after week and was like, I need to work at beauty industry. And I was like, oh, no, right. Like we don't do interns. I don't have any roles for you. I did, like, she's a dermal therapist and she's studying. And I said, we don't do treatments, I can't help you. And then she came back and she said, well, let me tell you all the things I can do. I can write, I can do reels, I can do socials, I can do blogs. And then I was like, radio, come on, you're in. I
love that. Good on her. And she's going to go so far in the industry just because of that approach and just because of that whole attitude, which is so awesome to hear.
Absolutely. And so when you're like, oh, I'm not the right person to ask, I think you're the perfect person to ask, because we need some of that resilience. We need the hunger for jobs these days. I think there's a real attitude of, oh, I can get whatever job I want and I'm going to ask for $48 an hour and no overtime and no Saturdays and no late nights. And I'm like, no, we need the hunger back in our industry. So I love that resilience, and email the 5 different people, get it.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, there's a difference between just getting a job for the sake of it and actually getting yourself a career. And, for me, I had a bad experience with my first job and I was like, I don't want that. I still remember in my interview, I said, like, I'm looking for my forever place. I just need to find my people. I just want to settle into my career and actually get on with it. And she was like, yeah, I would totally agree. I think that's what you need to. So, there's a lot of lessons to learn there.
Yes. And so it was through your education roles that you started to have this little sprinkling or sparkling of an idea, and then kind of SkinQueen was born. So I love hearing about the startup phase of businesses. Like, what was that light bulb moment where you went, this could be a business and how do I make this? And then what's the first thing you do? Create an IG handle? Like, where do you go?
And that's something I often say to business owners. Like, it's more than just creating a Instagram handle, but that seems to be the first step that everybody does. But, it just really started off as a hobby because I was really learning so much about the skin and so much about skincare. And I've spoken about this a few times, but people just started saying, I thought I'd come to you because you're the skin queen. And I think my best friend actually coined the term. And often my best friend and boyfriend argue about this. And they're like, no, it was me. But they're like, oh, see, the answers. You're the skin queen. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Had a look on Instagram. It wasn't there. So I was like, well, I'm going to claim that one. But for me, like, it started off helping people with social media in the beauty industry, because throughout being an educator and working with so many different clinics, so many people were saying like, oh, I'm not really good with social media. I'm like watching you look really good. Can you help me? And I like was having the same conversations over and over and over again. So I thought I should just make this into an ebook, and had that ebook for about maybe 12 to 18 months before I realized like, actually, I've made quite a lot of money from this ebook. Maybe it's time to turn this into a business. And I probably had the idea about this time last year to formalize it and actually start turning it into a proper business. So it's been a wild ride so far when I look back at how much I've achieved in the past year. But really, it's come out of a need. Like, it wasn't something that I'd ever planned to go off and do. It's just something that I've seen lots of people in the industry need help with. And I'm like, well, I'm really passionate about that. Like, I know how to do that. And I love helping people with that. And I've got the skills where I can train people to do it themselves. So why don't I start doing that and brand it under SkinQueen, which I'm really enjoying, really loving.
After the break, Kelly talks to us about the jump that it takes from going from a solid job to a startup business. But first, a word from today's beauty partner. The Otoderm hyperbaric oxygen system is an essential tool for clean, revitalized skin. The top layer of our skin, or epidermis as you know it, functions as a barrier to many things that can harm us, but in the process it also suffers the detrimental impacts of environmental pollutants. In an industrial age consumed by rampant air pollution, stress, constant technology use, and less than perfectly healthy diets, our skin is especially prone to premature aging, inflammation, and other conditions, and that is where Otoderm comes in. This revolutionary system features both an oxygen dome and an oxygen infusion gun to re-energize skin cells and turn back the clock on aging as it permeates much needed purified oxygen and vitamins into your client's skin. It is essential for absolutely anyone to help get their client's skin brighter, clear, and healthier. This treatment can also be done regularly as desired and may be combined with any facial you've got in your clinic or can be used solo. To learn more about how the Otoderm can benefit your clinic or salon, visit www.panamorphy.shop today. Thank you so much to the team at Panamorphy for making this episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast possible. And now, back to Kelly. I think a lot of people go, I want to do a lot of different things, but our advice is continuously niche down, just do one thing. But under the SkinQueen banner, you do two things. So you very much do your social media strategies, and you don't run people's social media, but you give them the tools and equip them to help them do it themselves. But then you also have the other branch, which is like dermal therapy and skin education. So how do you kind of balance both of those things?
Yeah, still figuring that out myself. But I think what I've come to learn is that people want help because they're watching me do it and they want to emulate that. So I'm only sharing from my own experience, but at the end of the day, even if we are learning about skin and educating ourselves, we then want to market that to our clients so that they can actually, bring money in, bring clients in, and so the cycle goes. So I've worked so hard on my mission statement for the past 12 months, and I feel like it's ever changing. Like, I might change it one word here and there, and I'm like, no, that doesn't sound good. Like, do I like that? But I guess overall for SkinQueen, like, my mission is to build and create skin experts and then help them to showcase that on social media through their own mission and vision statement. So whilst there's two parts, it kind of flows on nicely from each other. But I think initially too, what I thought is the social media side, I'll be helping beauty business owners with, and the skin education side, I'll be helping the therapists in the industry with. But, the more that I actually do market research and learn about the industry, there's like 60% of the industry are all sole traders. They are the business owner and the therapist in the one. So they want help with the both. So that's why I've really had to focus hard on the past 12 months to really blend that mission statement. So it's really clear on what I can do to help business owners. But at the same time, so many people, and this is why I love doing social media for the beauty industry, so many people have spent so much money on social media managers or strategists that aren't within the industry. and they just come back feeling really defeated and almost robbed of their money because they just didn't get it at all. They don't understand the industry. And I get it because our industry is quite unique. Like, I don't know too many other industries that are like this. And my partner is big into cars, but he says like the car industry isn't really as tight knit and as helpful as the beauty industry. So I guess that I like the way that I always say to people is I can put that beauty industry spin on it because I'm in it and I get it and I'm down in the trenches with you.
Yes, so much. Yes. And, you know, when you think about a social media strategy and a business and the content that they're putting out onto social media, they have to have the knowledge behind the layers of the skin and the ingredients and the technology and how that works on the skin, because that's the type of content that they should be putting on their social media. So it actually, though it kind of feels like two opposite ends of a business, it actually does marry really succinctly.
Yeah, definitely. And the more and more that I've gotten into it, the more that I'm like, no, actually, yes, this blends well. When you have a good mission statement that ties it all together, it makes you really clear on what you're working on.
Totally. And I want to go back one step, because you and I had a conversation probably a good 2 years ago now. Hey, and, you know, you were like, I'm in my full-time job, but I love SkinQueen. I know it can be a business. I know like this is such a thing. And again, that passion and determination from your end came out. And I think that, well, I know that because I have this conversation a lot with people, that there are a lot of people at home listening to this podcast and also not listening. Where are you? But, you know, they're like wanting to make that leap as well. Like, I'm in this thing. It's my side hustle, if you will, that Gary Vee terminology, but I want to make the leap to do it full time. How did you kind of grapple with that? And then what was that thing that made you go, okay, stuff it, I'm just going to do it?
The real answer or the shiny answer? No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, I feel like this is something that I'm still coming to terms with. And as you know, because we've had more than one conversation about this over the past few years, but like, I think it's a mindset. And I really like, if I decided 12 months ago that I was going to do this, I don't think I would have been where I am right now, because it was definitely a mindset journey. But it's all about believing in yourself. And when you have a really clear vision, and I'm so big into manifestation, love my Pinterest boards for manifestation. I was like, is my full-time job going to actually do that for me? And not even in terms of like financial prosperity, but also in what I want my lifestyle to look like. Am I going to be able to help as many people as I want? Am I going to authentically be able to share my story and my passion? And in the end, just the values didn't align. And I think that was the tipping point for me, because I'd already kind of made the decision to be like, do you know what? I've come this far to not like, I'm not just going to leave it at that. I've got to keep going and, you know, just take a chance, because at the end of the day, there's no shortage of jobs within the industry. So I always thought, you know, if shit goes sour, I can always go get another job. But working on your mindset is everything, because if you have a little bit of a negative mindset, and we all have days where we have negative thoughts, but if you have any little bit of a negative mindset, you're not going to have that faith in yourself when you take the leap. So if you're working as a side hustle and you're like, do you know what? I'm thinking that this could be what I want to do, just do it, because what's the worst that could happen? And, you know, for most of us, we're in the industry, we're still so young. And as long as you've got a little bit of a plan B or safety net, actually, I shouldn't even say that, because I had a friend to me the other day say that, if you have a plan B, that you're 56% more likely to fail your plan A. So I shouldn't actually encourage a plan B, but if you've got a little bit of a safety net in terms of savings, and, you know, just go for it, because it's honestly the best thing ever. And everything's a journey. I think often we compare ourselves, as I just said, to, you know, somebody's day or year 3, but, you know, everybody starts. Once again, I'll quote Gary Vee, everybody starts with 0 followers and $0 in business. So you've just got to start somewhere. And that's what I keep reminding myself. Now, when I look at it, you know, only working for myself full time for probably just over 2 months, I'm like, okay, well, if this is what I can achieve in this time, imagine where I'll be in 12 months. So it's just having that positive mindset and looking forward into the future. But, you know, we're in Australia. We're not in a really terrible country, as some might like to argue, but we've got so much opportunity here. We're such a first world country. I just think, why not?
Totally, totally, absolutely. And you don't want to live that life with regrets. I've been watching Love Island UK recently. I'm so behind, so don't tell me who wins. I don't want to know.
No, don't watch it.
But there's this one guy on there, Toby, and he's making all of these terrible decisions with all of these girls, and he's like ping ponging back and forth between these girls. And yeah, I know, right? And his piece to camera, he keeps saying, "I don't want to live a life with regrets. I don't want to live a life with regrets." And and it's made me think a lot about regrets and living life. And I'm kind of like, hey, yeah, I'm with you. Though what you're doing is shitty to these girls, I also don't want to live a life with regrets. So yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, well, only you can live your life at the end of the day. So, like, if you're constantly doing it to please others and doing what you think is right rather than what you feel is right, I think that's something else that I've really had to hone into recently is like, what is the right thing in quotation marks to do, but what in your heart feels right. Because if you're going to constantly do something that doesn't feel aligned, then you're going to end up burnt out, anxious, unhappy, resentful. And so really tune into what feels right, because that's what's going to drive you forward.
Totally, totally. And just putting that resilience out there, and you girl work hard. Like you're sometimes dropping like 2-3 reels a day. So I'm like, when is she having all this time to create the content? But I want to ask you about the reels and the videos and things like that, because it does take big boobs, to get the courage and go out there and get on social media and put your face out there. And you're like not only putting your face out there, but you're dancing around and doing all these fun things and like your sexy little legs in your high heels and things like that. So how do you, have you ever been shy in front of the camera? Are you just like quite a natural person in front of the camera? How do you go about that?
Oh gosh, definitely not natural in front of the camera. I've even got butterflies sitting here on Zoom with you now, which is funny. But I think a little while ago, I had a business owner, and this is like early into my stage, but I had a business owner reach out to me on Instagram, and she asked me like a question. She was in regional New South Wales and she was coming to Brisbane for a hens weekend. She wanted to get her hair done and skin done. She was like, where can I go? And I said to her, long time no see, how have you been? She's like, yeah, I feel the same, but I see you all the time on your stories on Instagram. So I feel like I'm up to date with you and I feel like I see you all the time. That's why I messaged you, because I felt so comfortable just to reach out. Like we were just having a normal conversation. And it was at that moment that I was like, do you know what? Showing up on stories and showing my face isn't actually about me anymore, because people are starting to feel like they're connecting to me and they know me. And that's everything in business. And that's everything when you're building a personal brand, full stop. So, even if you're a therapist who works for somebody else, but you've got your own Instagram handle and you're wanting to build that brand, you want people to feel like they know you and they're connected to you. And I'm sure even people listening to this podcast now, they're going to recognize my voice, and it's going to be such a sense of familiarity because they've heard me on Instagram before. And that's everything. One of my business coaches that I am now working with, after wanting to work with her for 5 years, has always like harped on about build an audience and build that know, like, and trust factor. So that's something that I really live and die by, because it's so important with everything that we do. And so if anybody's ever a little bit nervous about showing their face, I think just take yourself out of it. And I always say to everybody, don't watch it back. We all hate the sound of our own voice. We're all of our worst critics. And the reality is, though, when your ideal target audience is actually looking at it, when your clients are watching it, when potential new clients are looking at it, that it's just going to build that familiarity, and they're just going to be like, oh, look, it's such and such. And I do it now with some of my clients. I've got clients in Darwin, in WA, in Tasmania. And when I see that, I've even got clients in England actually on that I was just speaking to. When I see their faces on social media, I'm like, oh, look, it's Lynn. Oh, look, it's Helena. And it's like a warming feeling for me. And I say that, I'm like, oh, it's so nice to see your face. And they're like, oh, thank you. Like, I look shit here. And I'm like, no, I didn't notice that at all. It was just so nice to see your face, because, we haven't seen anybody in such a long time apart from on Zoom. So I think when you're, looking to do it yourself and you're like, oh, I don't know, take yourself out of the equation, as much as that sounds silly because you're filming yourself, and just think, I'm doing it for people who are going to get to know me. Because we actually work and have created such a experience and personal industry where people are coming to your business to see you, and they formed a connection with you. And I said this the other day in something that I was doing. I was saying, think about like your hairdresser, think about your personal trainer, think about the person who trains your dog or looks after your kids or makes your coffee. Like if you don't like them in any little way, like if you're like, no, I don't like their hair, you're not going to go back and see them. And that's just the reality of humans. So, the more that we can connect with somebody, the more people will feel connected with us and want to be loyal to us. And the more you'll build a really successful brand. It's the same with yourself. Like, your voice, whenever anybody hears your voice, whenever anybody sees your branding, they automatically think of you too. So just the power of connection.
Yeah, the power of good branding. And as you said, like you're so much more than just what you think, like there's so many times where I've had a crappy hair day or haven't been bothered to do my makeup or whatever. And I've gone, do you know what? I'm just going to get on quickly to this live in our community and just quickly say this, this, and this. And then when I jump off, everyone's like, oh my God, da, 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 I'm so glad you popped in today. I was, having a bit of a crappy day and da, da, da. And it is like, you've kind of got to go, it's not about me anymore. Like it's about the people, it's about my audience, and for us as therapists, estheticians, it's about the client. For us as managers, it's about the team. For us as business owners, it's about, whoever we support in that business owner capacity. Like it's always bigger than us, and that's a really good message actually to say, get in front of the camera.
And I think what you just said there, like that really highlights it. Imagine if a client came into the room and they were getting treated for acne. We're not standing there the whole time being like, oh my gosh, do they worry about my hair? Oh my gosh, is my lipstick okay? Like we literally do not even care because we're there to service that person and help that person feel amazing. And the same should translate on social media. It's something that I talk so passionately about all the time. I'm sure people are overhearing it from me all the time, but it's just all about building your know, like, and trust factor.
Absolutely. So, hey, I've just realized that you took the leap, I should say, from full-time business into your own business in the middle of a bloody pandemic.
Don't remind me.
That's amazing.
I freaked out a little bit still. I was like, have I done this at the wrong time? But it goes back to what we just said. I'm like, look, even if people are financially not in the right place to be purchasing from me now, like I'm building a brand, I'm building my connection, I'm building my audience, I'm building my authority. So even next year when we're flourishing and this whole dreaded C word is forgotten about, and we're like, what's a lockdown? They'll be like, okay, where can I spend my money? Oh, that's right, I've been watching SkinQueen, I'm going to go to her. And I think that's with anything. Like I've done a couple of guest blogs and things like that for different brands throughout this period where they're saying, what's your advice to business owners through lockdown? How can they, stay motivated and stay connected with their clients? And I'm like, social media, because they're all at home bored. And so you need to be getting in front of that camera. And, when you reopen, people who might not even be visiting you right now will be reaching out and wanting to visit you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the best businesses who have just absolutely thrived through this COVID time are the ones who have activated the shit out of their social media. Like they have created VIPs for Facebook groups. They've got on the reels. They've done all the things. They've spoken to their audience every single day on socials, or not every day, but consistently on socials. They've posted, they've checked in like that. That's the power of social media. And yeah, like we should just be using it to the fullest.
Yeah. Either like smart marketing and smart activation or like complete boredom. And okay, I'll give this a crack.
Absolutely.
I haven't figured out which one yet.
So tell me then, you've kind of expanded your offering with SkinQueen because now you're doing in-person events, and obviously you've got your membership and all of the different things. So talk to me a little bit about, how you made that decision to go, okay, this is actually more than social media strategy or just teaching somebody about the skin. I've got so much more to offer.
Yes. And I still feel like that's a little bit of a work in progress, but once again, like everything with SkinQueen has been such a natural progression. And I'm so thankful for that because I've created a business around the problems to create that missing link as such, rather than I'm going to do this. I don't care if people need it or not. And then when nothing works, then blaming, everybody else. But so I definitely do still help people with social media through my membership because I can get more reach then. I decided to do a little in-person event, which I'm like nervous but excited about, purely because I went to a 2-day business retreat myself, and I keep using the word expansive because that's the only way I can describe it. And, as I said, most of the beauty industry is self-employed and sole traders. And for a long time, I was just at home every day, working on my laptop, really getting stuck into it, like not complaining, loving it, but it can be a little bit demotivating with only my dog to talk to. So when this came up, I was like, oh, that'll be really cool to connect with other business owners. And it was so motivating. They were all in different areas of business. Somebody was a business coach, somebody was a photographer, somebody was an interior designer. So just learning how they implement things and do things in their business was amazing. Not to mention, we all got to bounce ideas off each other for our own businesses. And I was like, I need to do more of these because it really re-energized me. It gave me so many new ideas. I came back with such excitement and motivation to do new things in my business. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to start investing in more of these things to me because look at what it's doing for me in my business. But there's not a lot out there. And I was like, what about the beauty industry? Like, surely somebody's doing it here. And there isn't. And maybe there'll be more next year when we're in a little bit more safer waters. But I thought, you know what? I'd love to do this with just a small group of 5 or so women, just have a 2-day event. Day 1 is all about business, mindset, growing a business, scaling a business, social media marketing, all the favorite things that I love helping people with. And then day 2 is my second love, and that's talking about skin science. And the response has just been amazing. I think people are excited for something like this, and I think from there the energy will brew, and then hopefully I can start doing a few more of those. But in terms of offerings, I think I'll definitely start doing a little bit more business centric coaching and mentoring, because once again, with people watching my own journey, and I'm only at the very beginning of my journey, but I'm having so many people reach out to me saying, can you mentor me? Can I book you in for half a day? Can I work with you for the next 3 months? Can I work with you for the next 6 months? I've even had a client and she's like, oh, you're my person forever now. Like, that's it. Every quarter I'm paying your bill and you're with me forever now. And I'm only 2 or 3 steps ahead of her. So I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, it's good motivation though, to put me, like, I've got to keep my skills current and keep learning and developing so then I can help these people. So I'm really grateful. And I think that's the direction it'll eventually go, which is exciting. I actually had a soul reading last Friday, a bit woo-woo. And she was like, you're hesitating on that next business move, but it's definitely for you. And I was like, okay. And it does feel so good because, when people say, hey, I've implemented what you've shared with me and I've gotten these results, or I've spent so much money on coaches and ebooks and programs before, and you are by far the best. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm actually helping people. That's kind of in their business. Like, I've always loved doing that in my job, because a clinical educator with skincare companies is a little bit business development manager as well. So I've always looked at, how can they scale their sales? How can they market things differently? How can you sell through those slow moving products? How can you activate something and get the best return on investment for it? So I guess it's kind of blending now what I've learned with my online skills with that world and just elevating it to a whole new level, which I'm really enjoying.
Oh, this is so exciting. And hey, I feel like it might be premature to ask this next question to wrap up, but I'm sure we might have a part 2 of your career, like 2 or 3 years down the track once you've got this SkinQueen mega empire, which you will have because we're putting it out there, right? Yes. Light that neon sign up. But tell me, is there anything that you could tell your younger self? And if so, what would that be? I mean, if you think back to the Kelly who was like kind of in limbo, doing the tourism and the hospitality and the allied health and all the things, just going, where's my place? Like, if you could tell her something, what would that be?
Build an audience sooner. That's such a marketing thing for me to say. I think just invest in yourself. I think what I'm quickly learning is that sometimes you do just have to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And I think my younger self was always like, I'd love to be able to do that, but, was big on traveling and partying and buying the expensive bags and the clothes. And, I wouldn't be where I am today and in the past 12 months if it wasn't for all the investments I've made in the past 12 months. So I think I tell myself, just invest in yourself, try lots of different things, find out what you like, and build an audience. But that goes to anybody. Like, I think we can all be a little bit scared to invest in ourselves sometimes, but when you look at the different things that you can invest in, I'm sure you're always going to be the best bet and you're always going to get the best return on investment for yourself.
I love that. That's really sage advice to finish us off with today. Kelly, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with me. It's been an absolute treat.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I can't believe how quick that went.
Time flies when you're having a chat.
That's it.
Isn't Kelly's energy just absolutely infectious? I just love so much how she's harnessed exactly what she wants to do, and she's kept that tunnel vision the entire way, though she still has 2 streams and also left her full-time job. So an absolute queen, and a skin queen at that. You can find more from Kelly on the gram, of course, at SkinQueen, which we will link in our bio if you want to swipe up and have a little stalk. And hey, you might even find some inspiration in Kelly's feed, doing a little reel or a post or even a story. So go on over and follow her and have a little look. Until next time, stay connected.